We're going to be discussing the biblical 4 levels of hell. First thing we want to know is, where is hell actually located? So let's go into Ezekiel, the book of Ezekiel 31:16. And it says, I made the nations to shake at the sound of his fall, when I cast them down into hell, with them that descend into the pits, and call all the trees of Eden, the choice and the beasts of Lebanon, and all that drink water, shall be comforted in the nether parts of the earth. They went down into hell. And then a couple verses back, verse 14, if you read the whole thing on the bottom, it says, to the nether parts of the earth, in the midst of the children of men, with them that go down into the pit. So there's also a lot more verses that speak on how hell is actually located inside planet Earth. So it is located in the middle of planet Earth, the most inaccessible part. And it is located inside there. So we have the pit, as spoken in the Bible, this pit in which when you die, you go directly down into hell, those who are disobedient to God and do not believe. So you go down into the pit. And the first level we want to talk about is Sheol. Sheol. We don't have the name Sheol in our biblical English Bible, at least not the King James, which I read, but it is not in English, at least not in the King James. But in the language the Bible was made, in the verses, it is referred to as Sheol or Hades. Sheol is hell. Typically spoken as Hades. So let's look at the Bible where it talks about Sheol. It's in Luke 16:22. Luke 16:22. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. The rich man also died and was buried. So, Abraham's bosom. It is a paradise for those who died before Christ's crucifixion. Because when Christ died, he opened the door to be able to enter heaven in the third heaven. And if you don't understand what the third heaven is, then you should check out my video on the 3 levels of heaven, where I went into detail on that. But before Christ's crucifixion, instead of going to the third heaven, instead of going to heaven up there, where most people go now, a lot of Christians go now, before the crucifixion, they went into Abraham's bosom. It is a paradise inside planet Earth next to Sheol. Well, we're going to keep reading on that. It says, and in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments. It's talking about the rich man who died and was buried. And he seeth Abraham far off, and Lazarus in his bosom. So this man, Lazarus, was in Abraham's bosom, and the rich man was looking at Lazarus, who was in Abraham's bosom, from Sheol, or hell. So it was visible. It was hell was visible to those in the bosom, the paradise, and the bosom was visible to those in hell. And then verse 26 says, and beside all this, between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. So there was a great gulf that they couldn't pass either place. Another level, this is Sheol is the first level of hell. And if you want to count Abraham's bosom, then that would be 5. But I wouldn't count it. Why? Because Abraham's bosom isn't hell. And today, nobody is in Abraham's bosom. When Christ died, he came down into hell and took those in Abraham's paradise or bosom and brought them up to heaven. So yes, there are 2 paradises in the Bible. The paradise which people went before his crucifixion was Abraham's bosom, and after his crucifixion, which we go today, is heaven. And the next level of hell is the pit, or the abyss, as both of these terms which were spoken in the Bible. So let's go to Revelation 22. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him up into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him. So the bottomless pit is reserved for Satan. Let's see Revelation 9:2. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, and the scorpions of the earth have power. And then in the next verses, it speaks of the characteristics of these demonic locusts or beings. They had shapes of the locusts. They were like horses prepared into battle. Their heads were as they were a crown of golds. Their faces were the faces of men, and they had hair, women's hair, and their teeth were the teeth of lions. So they were strange demonic beings who were in the pit. So a theory is that apart from the bottomless pit, the abyss, being reserved for Satan, it is also a current place of torment for demons. And if you remember, I don't know the verse, but if you remember, when Jesus came up into this man that had demons inside, and they begged Jesus not to send, the demons begged Jesus for him not to send them into the abyss. And so Jesus sent them into the swine of pigs. And they sent the pigs to drown. So they rather possess an animal than go to the abyss. So it was most likely a place of torment, but remember, this is just a theory. This is just a logical guess. Now, the second last level is Tartarus. So let's go to the 2 verses where Tartarus is spoken of. And we also don't have Tartarus in our English Bible, but that's how it was called in the Greek language. It was called Tartarus. But in our Bible, it doesn't really have a name. It's just called a place of darkness and chains. So let's go Jude 6. Jude 1:6. And the angels which kept not their first estate, but left their own habitation, he has reserved in everlasting chains, under darkness, unto the judgment of the great day. So these angels which sinned were chained up and still are to this day in Tartarus, a place, it's like a waiting room for angels, for demons, fallen angels that sinned, and we're going to look at that later and what sin they committed. Those angels are to this day kept in chains and in darkness in this place called Tartarus. waiting unto the judgment of the great day. So unto the great judgment, where God judges the earth. And we're going to get into detail on that later. But when the judgment day comes, he's going to judge those angels that sinned, those fallen angels that sinned, and he's going to send them into the lake of fire, Gehenna. And we're going to speak about that in a moment. But let's look at the final verse on Tartarus, which is 2 Peter 2:4. So 2 Peter 2:4. For if God spared not the angels that sinned, those angels, those fallen angels that sinned, but cast them down into hell. Well, although it says hell, the word there is Tartarus. So it's not Sheol, it's not this hell, it's another level of hell, Tartarus. And delivered them into chains of darkness and to be reserved unto judgment. So Peter spoke in similar terms as Jude spoke on Tartarus. But these are the two people and the two books on which Tartarus, a place of, it's like a waiting room for fallen angels who are chained in darkness, waiting until the judgment. But what exactly are they waiting for? Well, they're waiting for judgment to be thrown into the lake of fire, or Gehenna, as the Greek word is used in that verse, which we're going to look at right now. And it's the lake of fire, which is used in English, and it is the destination for torture for unbelievers and demons after the final judgment. So we're going to look at that, and it's in Revelation 20:14. This is after God has judged the world, and this is where he sends those people. And it says, and death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. So those who were in Sheol are going to be thrown, as the lake of Revelation says, after the great judgment, into Gehenna, the lake of fire. And they're going to remain there forever and forever, while the rest of the Christians are in the New Jerusalem, the new heaven and the new earth. And it says, whoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. And as 2 Peter 2:4 and Jude 8 said, those demons in Tartarus, those fallen angels, are going to be thrown into the fourth level of hell, the lake of fire. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 levels of hell. That is four realms of hell. But the final thing I want to mention is that who were these angels that sinned? So we're going to look at Genesis 6:1. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they chose them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not always strive with men, for he also is flesh. And then verse 11 says, there were giants in the earth in those days, or Nephilim. And also after that, when the sons of God came in into the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. So these were fallen angels, the sons of God. And if you look at the Bible, sons of God usually is meant as talks about angels, but also on mankind. Like we are the sons of God, spiritual sons of God as Christians. But it is most likely that verse is talking about fallen angels, the other term used for sons of God, fallen angels. So these fallen angels, these sons of God, came in and had relations with human women, and from them came children, and these were giants, mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. So this is probably those angels that are locked up in Tartarus, those who sinned, as Peter said in 2 Peter 2:4, because they sinned against God and had relations, which is not natural to them. They are not allowed to have relations with human women. And they had relations and they sinned. So they are still to this day locked up in Tartarus. So that is the whole video. Thank you so much for watching. And make sure to like and subscribe and share this video to others so they may find out the horrible truth about hell and where it is located. Send this to other people so that they may know the harsh truth that those who do not believe in Christ or trust in Him are going to be sent into Sheol, and then after the judgment day, they're going to be thrown into the lake of fire, the second death. Thank you so much for watching. And make sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with others so that they can learn about the great truths of Christ in the Bible.